Here we are at the beginning of a new year, and the topic today is all about timelines. It's pretty fascinating. I have a lot to share with you. We're really going to dive into that topic, and I'm going to give you a lot of information that I've been channeling from a lot of different sources today, and how that ties into what's going on right now in the moment and some big things coming up soon and what you might be experiencing as a result. I'm also going to touch on the human reformulation process that I talked about in my last few videos, and I'll give you the frequencies from the Metatron channeling in December, and we'll talk about how those tie into the timelines topic, and then we'll close with a message from a Galactic High Council. So lots to talk about today. I don't have predictions for 2025 in this video. I'm going to make a separate video for those, so look for that. Should be coming soon. I'm Paige, Energy Healer and Channel, and this is your January energy update. And before I begin, I would like to ask you to please like and subscribe and hit that little notification button so that you get announcements when new content is posted. So timelines, what are they? What do they actually mean? What is all this talk about timelines, and what's coming with the timelines? So let's start with a little bit of background. And I've been talking about timelines since about April or May of last year. That's when they first started coming in as a topic in my messages, in my channeled messages. And the information that was coming in was that the timelines were shifting and that a new timeline, a higher timeline, was coming into place. So timelines are, I've used this analogy quite a bit, they're like people movers, but you align to them through frequency, and we're all on timelines. And the timeline that you're on determines sort of your evolutionary path going forward in terms of your higher shifts, your shifts to higher vibration. That's a frequency shift. And what that means in terms of expansions of consciousness, what that means in terms of reaching your highest potential expression. So obviously the higher timeline, the higher the expression, the higher the expansion, the bigger the shifts in consciousness, etc. And there's a lot of talk out there right now about timelines, a lot of good information out there. So I'm going to supplement that today for you. So the timeline discussion also intersects with the discussion around the change in our perception of time, and that's been a big topic, and I've talked about that extensively in my last videos. And actually, if you look at my last energy update from December, I went through a review of the last few months and the progression that we've been on, mostly seen through the frequencies that had been coming in my Metatron channelings. Those are on the Insight Timer, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. There's been a massive shift in our perception of time, and you're feeling this, everyone is feeling this in some way or another. I keep hearing it. It's not a small thing. What a lot of people are noticing is that they're either feeling like time is really slowing down or that it's really speeding up, like days are going by in a flash, like you don't even know where your day went, that kind of thing. So there's been a lot about how that process has unfolded, and you can look back at my Metatron channelings to see more about that. But time is described as a state of consciousness. So you just want to keep that in mind as we talk about timelines and time and our perceptions of time. So what's coming now is a convergence of timelines. And this came up in the Metatron frequencies at the end of December. And that really is the energy that we're in right now, right? So even though it was December, it wasn't 2025 yet, that doesn't really matter, right? It was December 28th. We're still in that energy. So the energy that came in then, the frequencies that came in, were all about timelines crossing and then diverging. And this is a process, and I'll go over those in detail in just a minute, but this is a process that we've heard about repeatedly that we're in now. It's going to end in March. So we've been told over and over, we're in a window of opportunity to get onto higher timelines. That means this is your opportunity to really move to a higher state, right? To position yourself so that you can be in the highest possible place when that window closes, and that is sometime in March. I think they had told me mid-March. Okay, let's dive into the Metatron channelings from December. So this is from December 28th. The first frequency that came through was about the extension of time along divergent pathways. The second frequency was the extension of two separate forms along a tropographic plane, and tropo meaning turning or twisting. So this, as I see it, looks like the double helix, the DNA, that twisting. And the third frequency was the perceptual understanding of linear time divisions. So that's where it really comes into our awareness and our experience, right? It's our perception. The theme of how all of these things came together was the crossing timelines that would settle into separate pathways. And as I've been asking more questions about this, it's actually not just crossing, but converging timelines. So it's much bigger. We have multiple timelines converging, and then they're going to separate into separate pathways. So I've asked a lot of questions about this. Let's go to that information. So what they've said is that these timelines are going to converge in February. So this isn't happening now in January, but we are in the energy already, right? Because we have that energy that came in through the Metatron channelings. Those are very intensive. It's a lot of energy that comes in those. So we're already in this shift, right? We're already in that coming together. It just hasn't quite happened fully yet, right? Something else to know about timelines that's important here is that the shifting of timelines is a rare event. So when we shift our frequency, we can shift timelines. As I was saying earlier, if you want to reach the higher timeline, you need to be pushing yourself higher. So I've talked quite a bit about that, using the channeled frequency. All of the meditations I have here on my YouTube channel will be great for that. There are lots of recordings. That's really going to push you higher, which will position you to move into a higher timeline. Now, what's really important to note about this window that we're in right now is that this is a rare occurrence. It isn't something that happens all the time where you can just work on yourself and boom, you shift timelines. So what they're saying is that obviously this convergence is rare, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but just being able to shift easily like this is rare. So again, very important to go ahead and push yourself now so you can be in the best place when those timelines do separate and settle. When timelines are converging, things can get a little wonky. And I've been asking about this and what that actually means for us. It's not clearly defined is the bottom line, and I'm going to see what else I can get about this over the next month. Hopefully in the February update I'll have more for you around this. But your reality could feel very wonky is what they're saying. So they said specifically, you may experience yourself from the outside looking in. Your understanding of the parameters of life may shift dramatically. So let's think about what it actually means when timelines are converging. Timelines are measured, like I said, in frequency, not in years. You can have parallel lives happening on separate timelines. Not everyone does have that happening, but some people do. You can access different time periods through different timelines. So something that's 1,000 years in the past, 2,000, 5,000, who knows how many years in the past, and also future timelines. So you might experience the future. So this is where things get wonky, because when all of these timelines come together, we can actually experience all of these different periods. That might feel like deja vu. It might feel like lots of emotion and strong emotion coming up that you can't explain. And this is something that happens a lot when past lives are really activated for people. They get strong emotion that seems very real, like it's affecting them tremendously, but they have no idea what the cause of it is, or what, they can't resolve it because they can't figure it out. So we could get glimpses of that. Hopefully it won't be overwhelming. There's really no way to predict that, I don't think, but That's a possibility, strong emotion coming in. You might also have really strong nostalgic feelings or a sense of seeing yourself or feeling yourself somewhere else. You might have a lot of futuristic visions coming in. And remember, lifetimes aren't only here on this planet. You might have galactic lifetimes where you're on another planet. So those could also come up for you. You might have dreams where you're seeing things or feeling yourself in places that feel very real. So all of this is possible with the convergence of timelines. So it's pretty wild what we're about to move into. I asked a lot of questions about how this happens. Why do the timelines converge? How often does this happen? Is there some greater power that makes this happen? And here's what I got. First of all, it's not an intentional act by a higher power. It has to do with larger cycles, specifically 24,000 year cycles. And those cycles are influenced by cosmic bodies outside of our galaxy, but inside our universe. I know that there are some well-known traditional texts that talk about these cycles. I am not familiar with all of those, so I can't place them. But if you have information about that and that 24,000 year cycle rings a bell for you, please do put something in the comments, as I would love to hear what you've got to say about that. So here we are in quite a tremendous moment, right? With all of this happening and coming quite quickly. It's just right around the corner. So I think the best thing that we can do for ourselves going into this is just be aware. Be aware that we're going to go through this period, but that it will pass. That's also important to note. It will pass, and then we will settle, and that settling is going to come in March. The topic of timelines is actually a good segue into talking about the human reformulation process. And this is the process that I've just gone through with 70 participants. It was directed by beings from the Galactic Center. And this is something that they developed and wanted to take people through as an accelerated evolutionary process for beings of light. As part of that process, they not created, but utilized a higher timeline. So they have brought a higher timeline in for the people who are participating in that process. Why did they need to do that? Well, the reason was that the shift in frequency is so high, it's such a big leap, I mean really a quantum leap in that process, that they needed to bring in a higher pathway for those who were following that process. And if you're interested in that process, you can join my email list. There's a link in the description below. I am going to be holding another series of those sessions in April, and you're welcome to join those. Just sign up for my email list and you'll get all of the information. I'll do some more videos here to share information about what that is all about. It's a lot. It's been an incredible process so far. The experiences people are having are phenomenal, and it continues. So this is not a short process. It was a month of transmissions and integration, intensive integration, and now they've moved into a longer period of integration. And the sort of the core of that process is receiving these higher frequencies so that latent DNA is activated and 5 dormant energy systems come back online. And it doesn't all happen at once. It's a gradual unfolding. And the gradual unfolding primarily takes place over a 3-year period. And here's something that they've said that I think is really interesting. This speaks to that same point about frequency and timelines. What they've said is that if you don't do anything, you will still go through a reformulation process, because everyone on the planet is going to go through this. But it will take much longer. So for comparison, what they've said is that the people who have done no spiritual work, who would be kind of at the bottom rungs of that ladder of not being interested, not maybe carrying a lot of heavy energy, maybe a lot of negative energy, those people would take 280 years to go through the same process. People who are at the highest level of spiritual development, enlightened, awakened, those people would take 50 years to go through the same process if they don't participate in this process that they've developed, the human reformulation sessions and ensuing process. So that's the kind of quick summary of how that works, and I will, again, be giving you more information here as we go along. And I will say also, I'm sharing about those 5 energy systems, the new energy systems, not new, the dormant and now awakened energy systems that are coming back online. I am sharing about those on my email list right now. So over the next few weeks, I'll be sharing about each one of those systems. If you're interested, go ahead and sign up if you want to get that information. So the final thing that I want to share with you today is a message from a galactic. And this is actually not just one galactic, it's a high council. And this is a new group that's been coming in together with these galactic center beings because the galactic center sit on this council. So it's a council of beings who are at that level. And this is a very, very high level. The galactic center are from the center of our multiverse. They are, according to them, the most advanced or evolved group in our multiverse. So we're talking about a very high level of evolution. Before I give you the message for January from the High Council, I just want to reiterate the message from last month from December because it may land a little bit more now. These messages as they come in, they're so new, but when we look back, they make a lot more sense. So the message from December was the expansion of time has brought you to an intersection with the future of your species or your future expression. It's for this reason that we begin the work of the human reformulation. This overlap creates an opportunity to step outside of time and into a space free of constraints so that your changes occur at a quantum pace. So this is where they've explained exactly how it's possible for them to initiate a process that would move so quickly and how we would be able to move so quickly to higher states. Now, let's talk about the message for this month. It's time that you connect to your galactic neighbors. It's time that you recognize yourselves as part of a larger galactic community. This is necessary for your survival as a species. You must understand the ways in which you are already influenced by the many federations of galactic beings, some who would assist you and others who would attempt to deny you. You will benefit greatly from the guidance of those who have already evolved in similar ways. Now, this harkens back to the message that came through from the Galactic Center beings in October, and I shared that in my October update, basically introducing the concept that they wanted to start doing this reformulation process and that we were being reformulated. So this is all still very recent. But at the end of that statement, they also said you are to be recognized as a new human within galactic structures. This recognition is coming quickly. So here's that same group. Now it's the High Council that they sit on that's saying it's time. It's time for you to start to acknowledge your galactic neighbors and to become part of that galactic community. And I know that a lot of people have been talking about galactic connections coming. I don't follow everything that's out there. I really try to stick just to the information that's coming in for me so that I know that it's accurate, essentially. But I know I have seen things about, where other channels are talking about galactic connection, not just connection, but really starting to interact with our galactic neighbors. So that's also very exciting. It's not something we need to be afraid of. It's not something we need to be afraid of. This is something that has tremendous potential, and the majority of our galactic neighbors are benevolent and are working with us already. Okay, that's everything I've got for you this month. Thank you for joining me. Again, I'm Paige, and click those links below to get more information about all of this stuff that I've been talking about, to join me for the Metatron channeling, and to get more information about those human reformulation sessions that are coming again soon. Have a wonderful month, and I will see you in February.